The power of reverse thinking. If you want to turn defeat into victory, don't overlook this way of thinking. The power of reverse thinking. Don't be too quick to assume that everything is impossible. If you know how to leverage it at the right moment, what once seemed impossible can actually become the very path leading to success. From a failure, you can completely turn the tables to become an outstanding success. Reverse thinking is one of the most powerful tools to help you achieve that. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a summary of the main content in this video. In the introduction, we will explore 10 short stories about reverse thinking, stories that, although brief, contain profound life lessons. After listening, your vision and mindset will undoubtedly be greatly expanded, enabling you to change the course of your destiny. The next part will cover: if poor people want to change their fate and escape poverty, they must understand these 4 golden ways of thinking. They will help make your life journey smoother and your career grow steadily. Following that are 5 contradictory ways of thinking that are actually extremely reasonable. They offer smart solutions to every problem in life. How powerful is reverse thinking? Why are there people who are always busy yet remain poor all their lives? Billionaire Elon Musk once revealed a simple technique that helps solve big problems faster, by applying reverse thinking. Applying reverse thinking in life. There are 4 mistakes that will only make you poorer the more you chase after money. It turns out, what you desire the most is actually the biggest obstacle on your journey to wealth. What is free is actually the most expensive thing. When your time starts to have value, you will realize everything free is a waste of time. What is the highest realm of an intelligent person? It is turning complexity into simplicity. Especially, in the final part of the video, we will share 9 teachings of Lao Tzu, timeless life philosophies that remain relevant even after 2.500 years. They teach the philosophy of Wu Wei, doing without doing. Going with the flow of nature without clinging to results. Here is the detailed content. We invite you to watch, reflect, and contemplate. Part 110 Short Stories of Reverse Thinking, containing great lessons. Dear viewers, the biggest difference between a successful person and an average person lies in their way of thinking. Successful people always consider problems from many different angles. And when faced with adversity, they know how to use reverse thinking to turn the situation around. Each of us has our own perspectives and thoughts. However, in the art of thinking, sometimes you have to go in the opposite direction from the crowd. This does not mean going against morality or breaking the law. Reverse thinking simply means thinking in a way that is contrary to popular opinion. It helps you break free from the herd mentality and stay firm in your own mindset. Let's begin with the first story, to better understand the power of this special way of thinking. Story number 1. Selling refrigerators in the Arctic, a lesson in reverse thinking. Selling refrigerators in the Arctic, it sounds impossible, doesn't it? That is a place covered in ice and snow all year round, where the locals never know what warmth or heat feels like for 365 days. Would people there even need a cooling device? To find the answer to this question, one man did not hesitate to travel all the way to the Arctic, to the land of the Eskimos, to sell a refrigerator. When people heard about it, even his closest friends, they all burst out laughing and strongly discouraged him. They said, "This is insane. It's impossible. Instead of bringing a refrigerator, why not bring them a heater to keep warm? However, this man remained firm in his idea. Instead of advertising the refrigerator's cooling function, he introduced to the Eskimos another benefit, one that was extremely practical. The refrigerator keeps food fresh without it freezing solid. In the harsh cold, food and drinks often freeze rock hard. To use them, people must spend a lot of time defrosting, which often ruins their original taste and texture. But with a refrigerator, food is kept at a stable temperature, it doesn't freeze and it doesn't spoil. This saves them time, effort, and preserves the true quality of their food. Thanks to this creative and reverse approach, he succeeded. From this story, we can see the biggest business opportunities often arise from the most unconventional and reverse ways of thinking. That is why we need to be willing to venture down paths that seem illogical, for only then can we discover unique opportunities that no one has ever explored. It is this difference that will create extraordinary success for you. Story number 2. Jewish wisdom, the lesson behind borrowing $1. There was a well-dressed Jewish man. He wore premium leather shoes and an expensive watch as he walked into a major bank in the city center. He took out a bundle of stocks worth $500,000, placed it on the counter, and said to the bank clerk, "I want to borrow some money. Is that possible?" The clerk replied, "No problem, sir. How much would you like to borrow?" The man answered, $1. The clerk was slightly surprised. "Just $1? The man smiled. "Yes, $1. Is that not allowed?" Maintaining his professionalism, the clerk responded, "Of course, sir. Here, the interest rate for a 1-year loan is 6%. After a year, you only need to repay $1 plus 6 cents in interest. And we will return your full bundle of stocks." The man nodded. "All right, thank you." After saying that, he left the bank calmly and comfortably. At the same time, another man happened to be in the bank. Witnessing this strange event, he couldn't hold back his curiosity and followed the Jewish man outside. He asked, "Sir, why did you only borrow $1? With all those assets, you could do so much more." The Jewish man laughed. Here's the thing, before coming here, I went to many security vault companies to ask about storage fees. But I realized, the cost of keeping those stocks safe was way too high. So, I decided to bring my stocks to the bank. I borrowed just $1 at an interest rate of 6%. That means I only pay 6 cents per year for the bank to keep my stocks safe. The bank has guards, cameras, vaults, everything. It's so convenient and so cheap. Hearing this, the other man was completely astonished. This was truly a completely different way of thinking, a brilliant reverse mindset. Usually, people use their assets as collateral to borrow as much money as possible. But this Jewish man did the opposite. He borrowed money to store his assets safely at an extremely low cost. He turned the bank into a storage facility, not just a place for depositing or borrowing money. The lesson from reverse thinking. Reverse thinking is risky, but if used wisely, it brings powerful results. Instead of following the beaten path, think differently. Find a new way. One that costs less but still achieves your goal. This is a special skill that most great thinkers and successful entrepreneurs know how to leverage as their competitive advantage in life and business. Story number 3. Charlie Munger. To find good partners, you must first be worthy. Charlie Munger, the brilliant American investor, was Warren Buffett's greatest partner. Someone once asked him, "How do you find a good partner in life or business?" He simply smiled and replied, "First, you must be a talented and trustworthy person yourself." Why? Because a good partner is never a fool. Smart birds always choose the highest branches to perch on. Talented people always look for partners who are equally worthy. Reverse thinking here is not about finding the best person to support you, but becoming the best version of yourself so others want to be by your side. If you want to meet the right people, you must first become the right person. Story number 4. Nelson Mandela. Forgiveness to truly be free. Nelson Mandela, the great revolutionary of South Africa, was imprisoned for 27 years. During those long years, he was treated harshly by prison guards. What touched the world most was that, when he became president, he invited the 3 guards who once mistreated him to his grand inauguration ceremony. When he walked onto the stage, Mandela bowed his head to show them respect. The entire hall fell silent in shock. Calmly, he said, "As I walked out the door toward my freedom, I knew that if I didn't leave behind my bitterness and hatred, I would still be in prison." The lesson from reverse thinking: forgiving others is not for them. It is a way to free yourself. True freedom doesn't come from the outside, but from within, to rise above the past. Sometimes you must learn to let go, instead of fighting back. Story number 5. Losing a debt note. Turning the tables with reverse thinking. Hassan lent a friend 2 yuan to start a business. As the repayment date approached, Hassan realized he had lost the debt note. He was worried, knowing that without proof, the borrower might deny the debt. When Hassan's close friend heard, he advised, "Write him a letter, asking him to repay 2.500 yuan instead of 2.000. Hassan was surprised, but he only borrowed 2.000. "How can I ask for 2.500? His friend replied, "Just do what I say, and you'll see." Hassan followed his advice and sent a letter demanding 2.500 yuan. Soon, he received a reply. The borrower wrote, "I borrowed 2 yuan from you, not 2.500. I will pay back the correct amount when it's due." And just like that, the borrower confirmed the debt in writing himself. The lesson from reverse thinking: in difficult situations, instead of forcing others to admit the old debt, create a scenario where they voluntarily confirm it. Reverse thinking, though simple, is extremely effective in real-life problem solving. Sometimes, you don't need confrontation, just a different approach to resolve what seems impossible. Story number 6. Buying tomatoes, setting your own price. A wealthy man went to buy tomatoes. He asked the seller, "How much per kilogram?" The seller replied, 16.000 dong per kilo. The man picked 2 small tomatoes and placed them on the scale. Then he picked up the biggest tomato and added it to the scale. The seller glanced and said coldly, 10.000. The man understood. He removed the big tomato, leaving only the 2 small ones. Immediately, the seller changed his tone. 8.000. Clearly, the seller was being unreasonable, charging more just because he chose a bigger tomato. People around were upset, but the man remained calm. He took out 8.000 dong, gave it to the seller. But instead of taking the 2 small tomatoes on the scale, he took the big tomato he had just removed, and walked away happily. The lesson from reverse thinking. When facing unreasonable situations, you don't need to react harshly. Simply change your perspective and actions to get what you want while maintaining calmness and dignity. Reverse thinking doesn't always require arguments or winning debates. It's about choosing the smartest way to handle any situation. Story number 7. The Buffet Restaurant. Reverse thinking to solve problems. A buffet restaurant was crowded every day. But they had a headache. Customers wasted too much food. At first, they set a rule. If you waste food, you will be fined 10.000 dong. Unexpectedly, business worsened. Customers felt controlled and uncomfortable. And many never returned. Then, the manager decided to change strategy with reverse thinking. They increased each dish's price by 10.000 dong and announced, customers who don't waste food will be refunded 10.000 dong. A miracle happened. Not only did food wastage stop, but revenue soared. Customers felt rewarded instead of punished. The lesson from reverse thinking. Never make customers feel like they're losing. Make them feel like they're gaining. Even if the policy is essentially the same. Change your perspective and approach, and your results will change too. Story number 8. Move forward or step aside. There's always another way. One day, an old monk asked his young disciple, if you take one step forward, you die. If you take one step back, you die. What will you do? Without hesitation, the young monk replied, I'll step aside. That is reverse thinking. When every choice ahead seems blocked, don't focus only on moving forward or backward. Sometimes, the path to freedom is in a direction you never considered. Life is like that. Things don't always go as planned. There will be times of despair, confusion, and no way out. But if you remain optimistic and change your perspective, you will realize, at the end of the mountains and rivers, where you think there is no road, beyond the dark willows and bright flowers lies another village. Hope always awaits those who dare to think differently. Story number 9. Sima Guang breaking the water jar. Saving lives by changing perspective. The story of Sima Guang breaking the water jar is a famous Chinese historical anecdote, showcasing the power of reverse thinking. When he was a boy, he played hide and seek with friends in the garden. One boy jumped into a large water jar without realizing it was full. Soon, he began to drown, thrashing and screaming for help. The children were terrified, frozen in panic and helplessness. But Sima Guang stayed calm. Instead of trying to pull his friend out, he picked up a big stone and smashed the jar. The water spilled out, and his friend was saved. The lesson from reverse thinking. In emergencies, our instinct is to act in familiar ways, to pull the person out of water. But Sima Guang thought differently. Instead of removing the boy from the water, he removed the water from around the boy. Change your approach, and the outcome changes too. Reverse thinking reveals faster, more effective solutions, especially in crises. Story number 10. Wanting to commit suicide for love. One sentence that changed a life. A young man climbed to the rooftop, ready to jump and end his life. Crowds gathered below, worried and anxious. When the police arrived and asked why, he cried out, "The girl I've loved for 8 years is marrying a rich man tomorrow. My life is meaningless." At that moment, an old man in the crowd shouted, "You've been sleeping with another man's wife for 8 years. Now she's marrying her husband. And you want to kill yourself?" The young man froze. Moments later, he burst out laughing and climbed down, no longer wanting to die. The lesson from reverse thinking. Sometimes, life's pain feels too overwhelming to bear. We think everything is over, beyond saving. But if you change your perspective, you'll realize nothing is so serious that it's worth destroying yourself for. Like a light at the end of the tunnel, a single different thought can illuminate the way out of darkness. End of part 1. These 10 short stories hold immense power in reverse thinking. If you ever see something as impossible, try thinking the opposite, and perhaps it will open the door to an entirely new world.